super excited to have you guys on the podcast. A lot of people were asking for you to be on the podcast and just get a little bit more about, and that's not media and / also your guys' journey the past 5.5 years as well, because obviously it's been very impactful on you guys and also my journey and Chester's journey as he is looking out the window. He'll join us at some point in time. But yeah, he was sitting up here for a bit, but now he's looking out the window protecting. But yeah, so a lot of people always wonder a little bit about April 7th, 2020. So what would be each of your guys' favorite stories about me, either like growing up or something that like people wouldn't know about me?
Well, I always say about you is that if we were playing a game or some kind of contest or whatever, that you would just enjoy playing the game. That you could purposely not win the game, which would then end playing, but you would continue on like making a move or whatever type of game it was so that we would continue playing the game. That was more important to you, was actually playing the game rather than winning. So that's a really good quality to have, that it wasn't so much you wouldn't play to lose, but you would just enjoy what was more important to you would be to play the game. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is just when you were learning how to downhill ski, you would just, we'd try and teach you, to go side by side and do pizza and so on. And we gave you lessons on how to ski, but you're more determined to get down the hill, and you'd go straight down rather than kind of go side by side or whatever. It was almost like a race.
Race and no fear, absolutely.
No fear.
To get it done.
I think for me, when I think of you and when you were younger, is that right from a very, very young age, you showed character traits that has stayed with you throughout your life journey. And I think one was you were very determined, and some might call it a little stubborn, but I'd say you were determined. And I'd say that you were very loyal. You were loyal, and you showed empathy even at a very young age. And I think one trait that I thought was kind of rare for a very young child is you're self-reliant. So if you decided you wanted something done, you're going to do it. A couple of stories I have to tell is when you were little, and we had spent a fair amount of money wallpapering your bedroom, and it was a really pretty Beatrix Potter wallpaper, and it looked lovely. And I think you were very young, and you decided at your young age that you were tired of that. And so I came up to get you one day from your nap, and you had the area that you could reach, you had removed all this expensive wallpaper. So then Gary and I decided, okay, we'll paint your room, and we'll get you a really bright red border, and you wanted stars, and we got you the matching comforter and all that. But because we were working, it took us a while we got the walls finally stripped and painted, but it took us a while to get everything done. And you didn't need us to do it, because we went up one day, and the new vibe was with the borders at that time was you could remove the back and you could self-stick the wallpaper right onto the wall. And so again, went into your room one day, and Emily Cave Boit decided that it was time for her to have her new border up, and you had stripped the back of all the border and had wallpapered your room.
I remember it.
It was a curve, but you were so proud of yourself. You did it. You didn't need anyone to do it, and that was it.
There is like 3.
Yeah, probably a bit younger than that. And there's this one story that's quite private, but I really do have to share it. You were determined. You did not like to have a seatbelt put on, and you did not and I mean, you have changed. We want to make sure people know that you have changed. You've come a long way. But as a young little person, you did not like to wear underwear, and you would not wear underwear. And we would put underwear on you, and you would go to church with us, and you would cuddle up to me, because you were quite a cuddly person when you were little in that. And, I think, her little cute hands in my pocket only to find out during church you were in Sunday school and I'd reach into my pocket for a Kleenex or something and I'd pull out your underwear. And so when you start to go to a Christian private school, you were pretty young, a bit too young to go. I had to literally bribe the secretary to tell you that they had a secret scanner in the door when you entered the school, and the scanner would tell whether or not every student is wearing underwear under their uniform. And that was the only way we could keep underwear on you during school at a very, very young age. But you have changed. So just your determination and once we were going to the desert and you were really worried. Yeah, you were really worried. And that, we're going to the desert. There might not be enough water. And we were running to get to the plane. And your sister Kai was holding on to you and helping you. And then we turned around and I had bought you these backpacks that were way too big for you. And you're pretty tiny. And Garrett and Kylie yelled, "Mom!" And we turned around and you were flat on your back. And she said, "She can't get up." And so I ran back and said, "What's wrong?" And when we stood you up and we looked in your backpack, you had filled up a bunch of water bottles. And your explanation was that you were worried for us because we were going to the desert and we may not have enough water. So as a young age, you worried, you thought ahead, and you just, you're a pretty determined little girl.
Mm-hmm. I would definitely say Olivia reminds me a lot of me now. Sydney definitely has the maybe like thinking of the water, etc. But Olivia,
definitely
she's a mini. Kylene birthed a mini sister for me. But okay, so obviously this podcast is a lot about Colby and grief. So what would be, looking back from the moment you met Colby to even now in his legacy? I mean, we're flying to Bago tomorrow, but what would be your guys' favorite memory? I feel like, who would have known the little girl with the water bottles in the airport, or the hiding the underwear in the church, or all of that? The non-competitive one would marry a professional athlete that was very competitive, but in a good way. So what would be your guys' favorite Colby memory?
Well, I think for me, obviously there's a lot, but you got all of us interested in country music. And so we made a trip with Colby and yourself and a friend of mine, Peter, to go to Nashville for the Country Music Festival. And that's like a full 4-day event where we're going to see some big headline events every night for 4 nights. And it was a pretty amazing trip and so much fun, and enjoying kind of relaxing the afternoon by the pool and having a few beers in the pool and just and enjoying that event. So that's a really good memory, I think, for me, thinking back about that trip.
I was Levi was on the podcast last week, and we talked about how he quickly ran into Colby and got to meet Colby like after his like set on like Broadway. So yeah, I feel like that trip, I mean, it was so hot too. I remember it being scorching hot in Nashville in June. But yeah, that was a really cool trip.
Yeah, I remember the friend that I took, after the first night, he was thinking, "Oh, I don't know if I can do this for 3 more nights." So it was a pretty intense time, but it was so much fun, and I'm glad we did that with Colby. So, because we'll always remember that trip.
Yeah. That was an awesome trip. What about you, Mom?
I think, like Dad said, because of Colby's personality and just the joy and living life to the fullest and wanting people that he met or who he is with to feel loved and accepted and that they mattered. Like he really gave us a treasure box of great memories, some of them little and some of them a lot bigger. But I think the one time I really think back a lot is Christmas 2017, when Kai and Dave came and you and Colby came, and we had planned painting events and we planned dance lessons, which Colby would not listen to because he had his own cave rhythm. And we did pedicures and that. And I think even though the activities really meant a lot to me, I think the most beautiful memory I had was you wanted money for Christmas, and your dad and I weren't just willing to give you an envelope of money or a card with money on it. So we made it that everyone, like Kai and Dave and Colby and us, we set tasks out for you to do to make money in US dollars. And so, because you'd like going back to the States and that. So we said people had you do things like eat things you didn't like. It was just crazy and that. And Colby was so excited that you were the center of attention. He loved it. He was just the big smile on his face and the laughter and that. And then when one of the tasks was that you had to sit on his back, and every push-up he did, you got $1. And you could tell Colby was in a lot of pain after a while doing it, but he would not give up because he wanted you to get the most. He wanted the best for you. He wanted to do it for you. Just his determination, and it's a great symbol for me. He always carried you with such love. He always had you on his back and cared about you. When he did, I forget how many it was, and we counted up the dollars.
It was like 20.
The big smile on his face and everything. And that's a memory I hold because the love he constantly showed for you. It's just a beautiful memory.
I think we are really fortunate. I know I talked about this in the book too. We were all really fortunate to, especially you guys being close and willing to jump on planes last minute, experience a lot of his hockey.
Yes.
Milestones. The first game, obviously, I went to. Then you guys were there for his first assist. I think David Backus got the goal. Deb and Jack were there too. Winter Classic, I think that's a once in a lifetime opportunity. I said to Ryan Donato, always said he would give him his spot again. And finally, Ryan got to be in a Winter Classic in January with Chicago. And I texted him. I was like, you finally got your Winter Classic. But just because it's such a yeah, and you can't beat the Bruins family. The atmosphere, the Cassidys, the Marshies and Bergie, all of them are just, that team was, well, I think Julie Cassidy said, out of all the teams she's been on that year, it was the best group of girls and families out of their hockey careers that they'd been on. We lucked out so much with that time in Boston because it was such an incredible group of people.
Yeah, I remember when Colby got his first assist, and sometimes the timing wasn't the best for Colby, but he just went with it. He didn't get too hung up, but he got his assist. It was towards the end of the period, and then they actually didn't announce the assist that he got into the intermission when everyone's sort of going out and getting a drink and whatever, and so it sort of got to miss that sort of announcement of getting his first assist in the game, but it never bothered him. He just persevered, and
as he would say, it's no big deal.
Yeah,
big deal.
No big deal.
He didn't look for that gratification. He just did things for the joy of it, I believe. In Boston and being there, and that he opened up a whole new world for your dad and I and your sister, and that we got to enter in an amazing world, seeing the hockey family and their outpour of love and support, and just the joy of celebrating and cheering each other on, and it was pretty remarkable.
It's pretty incredible when you think about it, all the hockey players in the world, or even all the athletes, and then how many actually make it into the professional life, and that we were able to experience that for when we did. I think it definitely makes the transition with his death out of it harder, because it wasn't he retired. It was you were in it and then you were out in some ways. But yeah, Boston, I mean, it's my favorite city, and I know it's one of your guys' favorite cities now, but I do remember being on FaceTime with you guys. One, when he got his first NHL goal, and then two, when Dad refreshed Twitter and was like, I think you're moving to Edmonton.
That's right.
When we were on waivers, and yeah, you refreshed Twitter at like 12, and you're like, you're moving to Edmonton. So
I remember with his first goal, Debbie and Jack were with us. Deb and Jack, and they were watching the hockey with us.
Uh-huh.
And just, we were cheering like crazy and FaceTiming you, and we were hugging and we were crying, and we just, wow, it was just, you know, it's just a moment. It was just the moment that we, you know, it was such a great memory and such a great moment.
his Edmonton goal. His Edmonton goal, his last goal in Edmonton against Pittsburgh.
I think the one in Montreal was the one we were talking about with Charlie.
The first one.
With your first one.
Yeah. So so much. His life just brought such fullness into our lives for sure.
Yeah, I definitely. Yeah, I could go on about that forever. And yeah, we experienced such a but a unique lifestyle that not many get to experience, and like how lucky we are for that. As much as it was brutal, it was cut short, and how it was cut short and all of that, like I wouldn't trade it, because my hockey memories, and I'm sure your hockey memories too, are like some of my like best days of my life. Like the first goal, like they're pretty special. So
I think we often say to people, I know I do, that we were so blessed to have Colby in our life. It was a far too short of time, but it truly was such a blessing for our family to have Colby in our life. He really brought a lot into our small little family that we have.
For sure. Okay, speaking of the nightmare week, doesn't even begin to do justice. We landed, which ironically we're all flying to tomorrow, but Bakersfield, you guys had a whole little caravan set up for us because it was social distancing, so we couldn't hug or anything when we landed. And you guys hopped into another car. But speaking of that week, whether it was the beginning or middle or end, what are some like core memories, good or bad, or like pivotal moments? I mean, some are talked about in the book, and obviously I talk a lot on social media, but from your guys' perspective, during that week.
Well, there was a lot happened that week.
This episode is posted during that week. It's posted on April 8th, so it's kind of
I guess I'm so much of an optimist. I kept hoping that Colby was going to come out of it, and just trying to keep that together, keep being positive for you, and too, we had a house full of people too, so it's like trying to, we made a couple of trips down to Toronto to the hospital during that week, and making meals and just
dealing with COVID.
Yeah, and just making sure that you were being cared for, and so it was a lot. I think for me, when I think back, and it's sort of a pivotal point, was on the Friday before Colby passed, on the early Saturday morning. So our friend Jack came.
I was very, at that time, like pretty peed off and broken at the same time, but I was and I think I struggled with being around certain people, so I think it was a pretty big deal that I asked for Jack to come.
Yeah, so Jack is like your grandfather. He's not really your grandfather, but he was like a grandfather. Excuse me, figure. And he's been a pastor all his life, and at that point he had been in his late 80s. And for him to come over,
he married
during COVID,
Colby,
to spend time with you was pretty remarkable. So it was basically, he came over, and I remember it was yourself and Jack and myself, we were talking, and he wanted to understand sort of the situation. And sort of in Jack's sort of his gentleness just really was talking to you and feeling just for you to release Colby, just to kind of let him go. And I guess maybe that's when I realized like he wasn't.
I think you guys too, like you were driving on the Tuesday. I mean, you guys saw him when he was taken from the house. And obviously we saw him intubated getting onto the helicopter. But I feel like you were at the airport when me and Mom went to go see him in a coma. And I think because you and Mom only like saw the like transportation parts, if that makes sense, and not the like, I mean, I don't wish the scene that I saw and seeing his body and the smells, I don't wish that, but I think there is something to say like for seeing that too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why too that week, like obviously later on in that week when his body got to the funeral home, and I asked like, can we see it again? And I like tried to fight to be like, can we see it again? And we obviously weren't allowed, but there's something for saying like seeing again, don't wish that image upon anyone. But yeah, I think for you in particular too, Dad, because you were kind of doing the airport runs, Mom took me in the wheelchair up to the glass, like you didn't see him in the bad state
Right.
as much. So I think you saw him like taken away, and then you were doing everything else. Like you were at the airport, you were on the phone, you were doing all these calls, you were making the meals. You didn't like, not the deterioration, but the like, you didn't see the severeness, if that makes sense. You saw like, the photos or on FaceTime, you saw him on a coma, but not in person. And
sitting in on that prayer meeting with the other NHL players, and it was just always trying to be so hopeful.
Hoping for that Easter miracle. We were hoping for that Easter miracle. Yeah.
And then that conversation with Jack, I look back on that as kind of a pivotal time where he wasn't going to make it.
I think we knew. Yeah.
He passed away less than 24 hours.
Is there anything you remember during that time, Dad, for you? Because I think we talked about this when I was writing the book and you guys were helping me. Is there anything that you remember that like I said during that week or that I did that like you were like, holy crap, or like this is really bad, or like she's going to be traumatized for the rest of her life? Or is there anything that was like,
we were always concerned for you, obviously. Mm-hmm. And we were trying to get you to eat and drink, and which is it really wasn't necessary. I mean, you weren't going to starve yourself, or if your body needed it, you were going to have a drink. But we would keep trying to, you need to eat something. Looking back, we probably didn't need to do that.
I mean, the one in the nurse in the room was definitely more on the nurse than on you guys. But I do remember my biggest savior for food wise was the Bruins sent those steak things. Mm-hmm. I remember them. Yeah. And that was like the only thing that I would eat, or Dave, like obviously my brother-in-law, would go through Starbucks drive-through every single morning and get me a banana loaf and a chai tea. And some days I wouldn't eat it. Some days I would, but he would still go so that it was there if I wanted to. Like those were the two things, the banana loaves and the steak skewer. Mm-hmm. I don't know what they were that the Bruins sent us, but I did eat those.
Yeah, we still have those bags.
We still have the bags they came in.
Yeah.
I think for me, when I think back, I think initially it was just disbelief. It was like some kind of movie happening and this isn't real. And with the COVID and everything, and you guys were to be isolated and separated from us, and you coming up and so with masks and gowns and saying something's wrong with Colby, and the fear in your eye, and that it, But there was just something in me that I said to Gary, I knew there was something wrong. I told you there might be something wrong. There was just it was so traumatic, and yet it was such a disbelief. And I think it was like you were in some kind of, I don't know, space that was like, this isn't really playing out. How is this playing out? And then I think to realize when they came for Colby and just the fear and the pain you're in, and we really, at that point, we weren't even really able to touch you or hug you because we're supposed to isolate. And it's just to that point to throw up your arms and say, I don't care. This is terrible. This is what's going on. And
well, I remember you guys in the driveway.
Yeah.
And we were still 6 feet apart.
Yeah.
And he was in the ambulance. And I was like screaming at you guys, being like, why aren't they moving? Like, why isn't it going? And then I think you eventually were like, screw it, Gary. Like, we got to go hug her.
Yeah, we got to be near you. But you're worried about, neighbors were worried. Like, no one knew what was going on. So there was just so much happening there. And then when Colby did go and he was put in the coma and stuff like that, I think it was, you were in a fight or fright situation, and you were doing everything you could to keep people in contact. And that in some ways it helped because it almost didn't get you thinking this is really, really bad. Like, I can't explain it. It was just like the movie just going and going and going. And I remember when he did die, it was like, I just got to get to him. And I blurted out, Colby died, because I just wanted to get to you. I was so worried for you. And I remember seeing you were just numb and you just in disbelief. And it was days just seeing that emptiness in your eyes. And you couldn't grasp it. And you just wanted to change.
Fight too, when Dad went to the airport to get the caves, you wheeled me in the wheelchair over to him, and that was like their idea. And we had like the whole wheelchair walkie-talkie, but he looked better. Well, I mean, what he looked like at the house was not good. And then after, when we saw him and I was in the wheelchair, like, he had his coloring back a little bit, so I think there was like a little bit. But I remember when he was helicoptered, and I talked about it in the book, like, I looked at you and I knew, like, I was like, I'm gonna have to pick an outfit for his funeral. Like, I just knew it in my gut. It was not good. But yeah.
We still tried to be hopeful.
We did,
right to the end.
But even like, there was so much with the COVID too. When we arrived at the hospital at Sunnybrook, and they only sent me up first. Like, I didn't find this out until we were writing the book, is when they told me upstairs and I was alone, and like, obviously I didn't handle it well, that it was not good. And then they said, we have to go get our parents. When they brought you guys up, no one really updated you. So when you guys walked in, you didn't know to the extent of what they just told me until someone eventually came. And I think you guys were there when like the whole group, all of them kind of came in with that like prayer, that spiritual person and all of that. But yeah, you guys were kind of just sitting in the car, sitting in the lobby, like waiting to.
Yeah, we were in the lobby,
Yeah. And just as parents, to think your daughter was there alone in the room, having to process all this terrible news on your own. And then when we get up there, you're just kind of rocking and you're just lost. It was really hard to see that. And it was hard to believe that the night before he was out working out with Chester, and I took a picture of him and he smiles at me and waves. Like, it seemed unreal. It just seemed unreal. I think it took a while to really process Colby was not going to make it. And we know in our heart, if he could have, he would have. It was, he wasn't going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
Even now, it's hard to think back and like, that really happened. Like, you can't make sense of it.
Yeah, there's just no sense.
There's no sense in it.
Yeah.
And the COVID didn't help. The COVID situation did not help.
Well, yeah, everyone was isolated, and the countless, like, such a blessing, but the countless gifts, and Barry ran out of flowers, and you guys are wiping them down before bringing them in the house, and the meals and the gifts, and it was just, which was such a blessing, like, so grateful for all the meals and everything that was sent, and it definitely got me out of bed the weeks following.
Mm-hmm.
When something was sent or when someone said something, but looking back, or even I remember, Dad, you're not really one to get angry per se growing up, but I do remember, and like I can laugh about it now, even though I think if I ever saw this person, I would not be as graceful as I'm being right now. But when we drove there after Colby's had passed away and I was allowed to go up and see his body, and the one security worker wouldn't let me through, and eventually I just didn't care and like ran by. But you were kind of like, what do you not get? Like, what do you not, like, it just seems that there was always something that week, like whether it was down to the security guard trying to stop me,
Mm-hmm.
to because he was unidentified, to like it was just,
Yeah.
it was, there was always something, like,
Yeah.
And I think for Dad and I too, when after like Kai and Dave stayed with Sydney for a while, and it was just us in the house, and and you know, Kai sleeping with you, and you know, like trying to help in that. It was sort of sorry, I have to stop there. Sorry. I think it's just a hard time. I think when Colby initially died, and because of COVID, you know, there wasn't the normal support and all those things, and that it was, we were thankful that, you know, Kai and Dave stayed longer, and Kai sort of helped watch over you and that. And then Dad and I could work with the busyness of things, whether it's about, and Dave was helping with the meals. And like you said, he was going for Starbucks. So it helped, and it shows how important it is to be able to have a community to help when you lose someone. And our community was really small, though people were bringing food and all that, but the day-to-day stuff. And when Kai and Dave left with Sydney, I can remember one day, and I never shared this with you, but I went up to the bedroom, and it was Wendy Tippett, and I texted her, and I said, Wendy, I feel like I can't breathe. I feel like I can't breathe. And I really felt I couldn't breathe because the loss of Colby was really hitting in. The responsibility of a parent was there, but the emptiness in your eyes, and knowing that your dreams, your hopes with Colby was no longer going to happen, it literally paralyzed me one day. I just went up and I just thought, I can't breathe. I've got to breathe. And I remember Wendy writing me back a very short note, just one breath at a time, one breath at a time. And I remember just one breath at a time. I went back downstairs. But that losing someone like you lost Colby just was so hard. And as parents, so hard for you to see you suffer and also realize Colby was gone during the time. It was hard.
I think two of the things during that time that brought any light was, like, obviously Sydney had a special spot for Sydney. I think she has no idea, even now at 6, like, how much she saved us in many ways. Like, her little, like, she has no idea, especially me in particular. And then the dog that Dad told me and Colby not to get.
Yeah, that's right.
That we got. Is now the
it's such a blessing.
MVP of the last 5 years, that dog. That was the greatest gift and impulse decision we could have done.
Yeah, he kept us going.
He kept us going.
Time.
Well, he also like kept us on our toes. I mean, he was a little run. He ran away multiple times.
Yeah, he got into things he shouldn't. Ate chocolate.
He was keeping us on our toes, and still to this day, he was.
But in all the sadness and the heartache, it was, and as I know there were times it was hard for you, but when people would come, I mean, they couldn't come into the house, but they, like Daisy driving 3 or 4 hours just to come and stand outside and leave flowers by the porch and just, send your love. And I know they did that parade of small people going by, and that as hard as it was for you, when we look back now, we just, from a distance, people really did try to show their love and support. And for that, we'll all be always thankful for. And
all the people
so
that
appreciate
drove to the driveway
Yeah.
or dropped off meals even from.
Yeah.
And I mean, some days I wouldn't go out, some days I would, but at least for you guys too, like you guys go out, or you, like, I mean, it's from the porch to the driveway, but like it was something in another human interaction.
I think it was, for me, it was really hard when it was just the three of us left in the home. Like when the home, after Kai and Dave left and all that, like it was just the three of us, and with your birthday coming up and all those milestones. And I think that's when you really started to just have the heartache gut feeling, like, it shouldn't be this way,
I think the adrenaline wears off, right, too? Like the adrenaline of, like, I know, Dad, you were figuring out the funeral homes, you were figuring out all the business side, you were kind of doing that. Mom, you were like constantly with me. So I think once the adrenaline, like the business side, I mean, obviously still there's so much death duties after, but the initial death duties are done, there is that like drop.
Yeah, I did all that. And your mother was the one kind of looking
For me.
after you. Yeah, your emotional state, I guess, in a sense. And not for us to do anything that would upset you. Like if we were watching a TV program, she would be really sensitive to what kind of program it was.
I remember one time, I think this is the Oilers had sent something. I don't know. I just remember it had something to do with you guys. We were trying to figure out where to order because they sent gift cards. And it was something to do about you and Kai were trying to set chicken wraps or something. And I just remember Mom just let you guys have it because I was so upset and didn't want to hear it. And I didn't care what I was eating. And she was like, can you go talk about food in another room? Like,
well, they're the foodies and we're not.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that would be a topic of conversation in the evening. What food should we order or pick up? And so we probably should have been more sensitive about talking about that in front of you, because it's not something that you needed to be involved in a debate over food we should order.
Or sitting around a table knowing there was an empty seat now.
That.
I think that
was the very beginning. Those were because the caves were still there.
Yeah, that was heartbreaking. Yeah. It just.
Okay, what was one thing? Obviously, Dad, you've lost like both your parents, and like we've lost family, friends, and etc. But what's one thing that was different, or that you've learned more with Colby's grief, or learned about grief that you didn't think you knew before until Colby died? Not that one grief is worse than the other.
Right. I just think it's the depth of grief, how deep it can cut into your heart, and how, it's different. You still miss, say, a parent who's older. I mean, my dad lived to 97, my mom 90, and that's a totally different loss than losing, like, for us, Colby, at such a young age. It's totally different. I think it's important with grief that when you're talking about your grief to other people, that they just listen. So many people, they're not really listening. They're part listening and they're part deciding on what they're going to say. And there's nothing you can say. There's no words of wisdom or anything that someone can say that's going to take away your grief. So it's really learning about grief, and for when others are dealing with a loss, is really just to listen and to make space for that person without any kind of judgment or any kind of thinking, how am I going to reply? Just listen and validate what that person is going through. So that's the main thing.
I think I totally agree with your dad. I agree with your dad in that we need everyone should be allowed to grieve and process grief the best way they can, because it's individual. And the greater we love, the consequences, the deeper the grief. And Colby was young and vibrant, and losing him so quickly, it brought in a lot of emotions that you maybe not normally deal with. And I know initially I was angry. I was angry at God and couldn't understand why. And I thought it was senseless that Colby died. He brought so much to everyone's life. And then I also realized that going through it after Colby died, the importance of us now knowing this is that we can't put a timeline on someone's grief. We've got to hold a space in our heart and hold it forever, because grief is a life journey. It doesn't move on. It doesn't move away from us. Time does not heal it. There's going to be different waves and different things that are going to hit us harder and you feel knocked over. And then other days, yes, you can have joy. You can have happiness, as, Colby would want us to have, but there will always be those waves of grief. And so, yeah, I think it's just not rushing people, not having expectation or judgment. And there's a poem, and I do want to read it, because it was, when I saw it, I thought of the situation of someone that has loss, and those that are walking with that person, just to understand that they should allow that person. I just lost it again, but sorry. I have a poem. I'll just put that. I have a poem that's really, really speaks about someone that's walking through grief and will walk through grief, and to feel it's okay to have that grief. And I don't know who the author was, and I just added Colb's name into it a bit, but it said, "We talk about Colby because we're proud. We talk about him because he deserves to be remembered. We talk about Colby because even though he is not physically with us, he is never far from our mind. We talk about him because he is a part of us, a part that we would never ignore or disown. We talk about Colby because we love him still, always will, forever. Nothing will ever change that." And I think it's important that we allow people to talk about the ones they love, to celebrate the ones they love, and to honor them. And I think that's what I learned about grief.
That was really good. I saw a widow posted something, another Jen had posted something this morning. It was from someone else, and it was a video, and it's basically a therapist talking about grief, and it's like, it's not learning to live without the person, it's still learning to live with them, just differently.
Exactly.
So it's like, just different. Like, I mean, Cole's part of my everyday life, just in a different way. Because like, that death doesn't end a relationship, I feel like. But what would you say to, I know, Mom, you've had the opportunity to connect with a few of the parents of widows that I've become friends with, but what would you tell other parents or other in-laws that lose a son-in-law or daughter-in-law but are watching their child grieve, but you're grief? Like, what would be your advice to them, I guess?
I guess for me, it was a lady that reached out to me in a card. I didn't know her, but she lost her daughter, and she lost her son-in-law, and her daughter was a young widow. And she sent me Carly, yes, yeah. Carly and Nina, and Nina sent me a card, and I didn't know her. And in her card, she said, "Just know your grief will be twofold." And I thought that was an interesting way to try to explain what Gary's and my grief will be. And it took me a while. And I guess that's what I would say, is that, yes, it's twofolded, in meaning that when you love your son-in-law or your daughter-in-law, just like a son or just like a daughter, and you lose them, you have a great grief. You are missing them. That is part of your family. They've been part of your memories, part of your life and that. But then also you have another kind of grief, and that is seeing your child lose their person, your child in such agony and pain, and actually initially and for quite a long while trying to find their way again. And so I think you grieve the loss of your loved one who has left us, but you also grieve what could have been for your child that you love. And you know that that person was their person and filled their cup and trying to help them maneuver through that. And I can't imagine being a parent losing you or Kai, but I have to say that it is a twofold grief. It is a very hard thing to try to balance.
I'm not sure how much more I could add to that. I think that's what your mom said is true. The advice I get just to recognize your grief, we already talked about, and recognize that it's never going to go away. It's learning to live life with grief. Grief and joy can be at the same time. You just have to persevere and understand that your life has changed. And you need to be there for your daughter or your son, whatever it takes, because you don't want to lose them. You want them to continue on and to have the best life that they can have, knowing that they've gone through a huge loss.
Is there anything on like the business or death duty side you'd recommend? I mean, I'm a huge advocate for having a will.
I get a will.
Yeah, it's definitely having a will.
Make sure.
And I guess passwords as well, knowing
Yes.
what passwords are, it is important, because think of, phones, not knowing passwords for phones and stuff like that, or bank account. And
do you remember the time that
we're talking
you
about
were
the TELUS person?
The TELUS person, and you
No,
didn't.
it was T-Mobile because they're in the U.S.
And you didn't have his password, and you're trying to get into find information or his account. I don't know what it was all about. And they're giving you a hard time. And the person kept sort of giving the same statement. Well, we need him to tell us that it's okay. And I don't speak up often either, but I remember taking the phone and saying, what don't you understand? He cannot talk to you. He's dead. He's in heaven. Stop it. Stop doing this to her. But it was crazy. It was like, how can he tell you? He is gone. Stop doing this to my daughter. I think when something this like happens, I think the real, I guess the mama and the real Papa Bear come out and try to be protective, because you are hurting so much already. You just do everything to try to help you not to be hurt anymore. And that guy really ticked me off that day.
I'd say, yeah, there's been some people that definitely ticked us off over the years on their lack of understanding.
If there's one thing I can also say that I about grief is that I think sometimes when someone has lost someone, we have the tendency to say to that person, oh, if you need anything, let me know. Or when you want to get together, let me know, or whatever. And I think what we've learned through and seeing what you have gone through and our family has gone through too, you are not in the frame, the person that is grieving, they're not in the frame of mind to even know what they need, what they want. And they're not capable of reaching out and saying, hey, let's get together for a coffee. I think if you know someone that has lost someone or a family that is grieving, all that, I think it's really, if you're genuine and sincere, it's really up to you to go forward, be at the door and say, hey, like, I'm here. I'm here to listen. I'm coming to pick you up in 10 minutes, like blah, 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 blah. But to initiate it. Do not expect the person grieving, because that person, and we saw it in you, you sat on a couch. You didn't even think of eating. You didn't even think of sometimes brushing your teeth. You didn't think of your hair. You didn't think of anything. So how is it can we expect someone to be thinking, I'd really like to go to coffee with you today, or I'd really like to do that. I think we have to be very careful. We don't say, I'm here all the time for you, just let me know. I think we have to say, I'm here, and actually be present. Be present.
Continue to show up, I think.
Yeah, show up.
I think about that so much. I think, you know, obviously you guys moved me back to Edmonton, and then you guys went back to Ontario before you guys made the decision to move out to Edmonton and help me. But there was some, like, well, there was quite a few people during that time when you guys weren't there that I think, like, I think of Ty Coper. I think Ty Coper didn't know Colby. He didn't know me before, and Steph, and, you know, other people in the building. And I remember one time just like not knowing, but Ty just came upstairs and was like, hey, I went to Home Depot. I had to change my air vent. I bought you an air filter and I'm going to do it too. And I wouldn't even think to, I didn't even know that there was air filters. Like, I wouldn't even think. And here was someone that had just, I think about that situation all the time with Ty and Steph, because I would have had no idea, and then the filter would have just got worse, and then who knows what happens. But showing up like that, especially when you guys weren't in Edmonton yet, there were so many people that would like just show up with meals or like be like, and I think that's super important in the first, like, you guys dropped me off or moved me out in like May to July, but when you went back from July to October, it was also the NHL bubble, and it was, his name was everywhere, and it was a lot. But people even like offering to walk Chester because there's people outside or that. And I think that was really important in the first 6 months, and even after you guys moved there, to continue to show up. Like, the people that continue to show up 5 years later, or like get it or care, or like, it's not just showing up within the first 6 months and then that's that. It's like the people that, obviously the first 6 months are so helpful, but the people that continue to just rub his butt all over the floor, continue to show up during the following, like once it wears off, quote unquote, I think are really crucial too.
Yeah. And I agree. I think if people are saying, like, those people that are there on the initial when it happened, you know, it's lovely in that. But then when you have not that you depend on them, but you welcome their support and you feel cared about in that. And then as it drifts away, it's another loss for you. It's another huge loss. And I think we just have to be so careful. If we say we're here for you, we can't put a timeline on it. We can't put a timeline on grief. It means you show up. You may not be able to show up every day. You may not be able to show up once a week, but you show up. Otherwise, it becomes another scar. It becomes another loss.
I do think that was even that much more amplified with Colby's too, because I think in the beginning, as you said in the beginning, Mom, there was so much. Like, it was like media, public statements. I didn't deny any interview. I like was constantly running on this adrenaline. So I think when it was so heightened, which I'm so grateful for, like, I'm grateful for all the NHL games. I'm grateful for all the things done in his honor and events. But when it's even that much more and more high, it's that much more and more low when it drops, because it was like, now they've really forgotten because there's no more games. There's no more like this high energy, like.
And your whole thing when Colby first died, I can remember you saying, I don't want him forgotten. I don't want Colby forgotten. And so that high of all that was going on from it, people and whatever, it was helping you carry you through, because it was something you did not want him forgotten. And then when it suddenly dropped, then there's that anxiety or that panic in you. It's not even about yourself. It's about Colby's being forgotten. You know what I mean? Like it's, we have to just be so careful in what we promise or what we commit ourselves to someone that is grieving, and, you know, show up, be present, and know it's a long journey. So if you make the commitment, walk with them.
You think of not wanting Colby to be forgotten. Well, yesterday we went to the first of Colby's kids for the season, and there well over 100, almost probably 150 kids who have jerseys that say Colby's kids on them.
Yeah, and I said to Gary, we should take a picture, because the first session from 8 to 9 were 40 girls, and then the second session was 46 little kids, and we stayed there, and then we were heading off for church, and when we were leaving, there was another session of 46 coming in. So I gave Erin a big hug, and I said, this means the world to Emily, and I told her that Colby would be so, so honored. And so, you never want him to be forgotten, and he's not. He's not. He's very present. He has sent us a lot of signs over the years. Yes. He has sent us so many signs over the years, and I know he'll be sending signs when it comes to his 5-year heavenly birthday. Chester. Yeah, that will be a bit hard too. Like it never, I think too.
Delayed so much.
Yeah. And, I think, we always say those milestones are hard, but I think also because of his legacy and the foundations and how he's known, that there seems to be always something around the corner, and so, yeah, there's a tug on our heart, but there's also a sense of joy, and people still talk to us about how Colby impacted their life. Like, we feel so honored to be the in-laws of Colby, because we thank you for bringing Colby into our life, because we hear all the time how much he embraced other people, how much he loved you. I mean, we hear from Bassam the same story over and over again, the driver, and he'll tell us that story and how much Colby loved you. He just loved you. And as parents, to know how much your child is being loved is a great gift. We thank Colby for that. He really loved you. And we will, as that poem said, we will never stop talking about him, and we'll never forget him. And as long as we live. And little Sydney and Olivia talk about him, and kind Dave. And I can remember how Olivia was upset because she never got to meet him, and we promised her that he'll greet her in heaven. He'll be excited to see her in heaven, because she feels a little left out that she never got to meet Colby. So we feel, yeah, he impacted all of our lives. And Sydney wore his jersey the other day, Colby's kids' jersey, to school for Jersey Day, and yeah, all of us, Dave, Kai, all of us just feel so blessed that he was in our life, and still is. He's a part of our life.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like he changed all of our lives.
He changed all of us. Yeah. In hard ways, but also in good ways, to learn to live life to the fullest. I mean, you skydiving and doing all those things, and you'll say to us so many times, you only live once. Got to do it. I mean, the ride in Florida, your dad hates heights. And the way you put it to us, like, got to do it. You only live once. You don't know what tomorrow brings. And I think sometimes we've learned to enjoy life each day more, because that's the example Colby was to us. Mm-hmm. There is never a morning, never a day that we had to question, is Colby okay? Because Colby woke up with a smile. He had a coffee ready for us, or we had a coffee ready. He was ready to be engaged with us all. Okay, what's up this day? He had so much energy. And so there's never been a time that I can honestly say, I'm sure he had his times, but to us, he was never moody, never complained. He just lived life.
We were talking about signs, and but there's one that I don't think we've told you this one. It just happened recently. Remember that watch Colby had that he had bought it in China? It was a knockoff.
Yeah.
And
yeah, Marshy and all of them went and got knockoffs. Yeah.
And we took it, it was jammed and I couldn't get it to turn or work anymore. It was whatever. Yeah, that one. Yeah.
And you had taken it in and they said, oh no, it's not worth fixing. And it was just, so it wouldn't work. So that was like, well, it's almost like
4.5 years ago.
So Bassam,
I put it in my drawer and kept it because I wouldn't throw it out.
The driver who drives a lot of the Oilers and so on, he drives us to the airport. We've become friends with him and his wife. And so their grandson, one of their grandsons, really likes watches. And so your mother offered to give this watch to this little boy because he loves them so much. And so she had text the picture of the watch and
told her it was a knockoff. Told her it wasn't working.
Yeah, and she's, oh, that's okay. He'll love the watch. Anyways, and so
a couple weeks later, I think.
A couple weeks later. So your mom said, well, can you go over and drop off this watch? Because he was there. Yeah. So, told me the story again. It hasn't worked for years. And
well, Cole went to China in like 2018. September 2018.
Something like that. So I looked down at this watch and the second hand is going. And I said to your mom, what do you mean the watch is working? And she said, that's impossible. It hasn't worked for years.
It's been in my trap door for 4.5 years. It's not working.
I said, well, it's working. There's the second hand. It's going. And so not only that, so a bit later, so I was driving over to where I was going to drop off this watch, and your mom had said, well, the watch is working. And Mona said, well, you don't have to bring it over if it's still working. I said, oh no, we've promised to give it to him. And so anyways, I look at this watch again, and it was the exact time
that he was dropping the watch off.
It was the time. It was that exact time. It was 11:15 in the morning. And the watch said 11:15. And it was working. And it was the exact time.
And we were like, whoa. So I went back to my text to Mona 2 weeks earlier because I took a picture of the watch and I said, I'm not sure if he'd be interested in this, but he loves drawing pictures of watches. Not this one doesn't work and all that. And she goes, oh, that would be so sweet. That'd be so nice. And they are lovely people. And she was so appreciative. They're beautiful people. And so when I went back to the picture, the time is stuck on 11 o'clock. When I handed it to Dad 2 weeks later, didn't even know what time I sent her this picture. And I sent her the picture in the evening, but the hand was stuck on at 11. When I handed him the watch, it was around 11 and the second hand was moving. It was the exact time.
So how is that possible that this watch, all of a sudden started working and it was at the right time?
It's at the right time.
I feel like that
and it's still working.
I feel like that's such a sign, obviously, but I feel like, especially in particular because of Bassam, I feel like he's one of the people that he was incredible when we got sent to the Oilers. And then after he passed away, he's the one that came and picked us up. And then now you guys establishing a friendship with him and his family. I feel like that's totally a Colby, thank you sign.
Bassam is the only one here in Edmonton that we know that has continued a relationship with us that also knew Colby. A lot of our relationships are new and we talk about Colby, but they never met Colby or they never seen you with Colby or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Bassam is the only one that can share with us the stories of how Colby was so excited about you coming. And that is when the people that were getting his old knockoff watch from China that wasn't working for 4.5 years, it started to work. And it was just this is to be.
It would be more than 4.5 years if we got it in 2018.
Oh, yeah. But I had it for about 4.5 years and it wasn't working yet. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's quite something.
Wow. Yeah, that's definitely a sign. Definitely Colby, but Well, thank you guys for coming on.
Thank you. We love you. Hi, Chester.
Okay.
Hi, Chester.
Say hi,
Good
Gigi and
Chester.
boy.
Grandpa love you.
What a good
You.
boy, Chester.
We miss you.
Mhm.
We miss
That.
you. Keep spreading the joy to Mommy.
Mm.
We love you, and we're proud of you. And one strong lady that you've just been resilient and yet willing to be vulnerable to share your journey. So thank you.
Awesome. Okay.
Okay, love you.
Okay. Love you,
you.
dear. Okay.
Love you. Bye.